Today we're going over the Brothers War spoiled cards. So these are from the commander set as well as the main set. A lot of cool interesting things here. Some of them are a little blurry, just mind you, because these are spoilers. Not all of them were revealed officially. I think that's the case. Or I rather like this horse that was revealed officially didn't have the best resolution or like port to PC, so it's gonna be a little blurry at times, but let's get into it. Today's first card is Phyrexian Flesh Gorger. For 7 mana, you get a 7/5 artifact creature Phyrexian Worm with menace, lifelink, and ward pay life equal to Phyrexian Flesh Gorger's power. It also has prototype, so you can cast a spell with different mana costs, color, and size. It keeps abilities and types. 3/3, 1 generic, a black, and a black. I think that's cool. I think this card is definitely interesting in that it allows you to play cards earlier. Say, you want to have something to do early game. And, Magic has been pushing itself to do a lot of this lately, especially with cards like lands that have like its added benefit. So that way it sort of shores up variance just a little bit. I think that's kind of what Magic is doing here as well. You can cast this really early as like an aggressive threat, but also you can cast this late for like a super, beefy beat stick, which is super nice. The fact that it has lifelink means it's also good against aggro decks. So it's probably even going to contend as like a good spot in aggressive black decks to contend against non-aggressive black decks. It has menace, so it's gonna be hard to block. It's a 3/3, has lifelink. Like, this is gonna, not only is it gonna stop a blocker, it's gonna slow them down. And if they try to attack it, well, you're gonna win the race because it has pay life equal to its power. So I think this card's really neat. I like this card a lot. This is one of those cards where I feel like, and this is like one of the reasons why I do like standard, is that it allows you to play these cards that seem to be not as strong enough for, and I think like the effects are cool enough where you want to play it, but they're not as strong enough for EDH where you want to put it in an EDH deck. But like they're cool enough where you can play it in like standard or like a sort of a smaller card pool format, so just to see how it plays and how cool it feels to play it. But yeah, this is a sweet card. I think this is definitely not going to be a commander card, but maybe if you can buff it, maybe put some mutations on it. But I think this is definitely more of a standard card. So let's go next. Next up is Urza, Power Stone Prodigy, 2 and a blue, legendary creature, human artificer. Vigilance, 1 generic, tap, draw a card, and discard a card. It's a 1/3 with whenever you discard 1 or more artifact cards, create a tapped Power Stone token. This ability triggers only once each turn. Sheesh. I don't know if I'm happy for this or sad for this, but a lot of the effects lately have been sort of just, I want to say like skewed or like slowed or nerfed because of that last little clause in this text. It says this ability only triggers once each turn. So it makes it a little awkward when you have ways to discard multiple things at once. It does mean there's a higher bound of what this card can do in an actual turn, which I guess generally helps against power creep, and everyone is so much against that. It does allow you to still play like what is a relatively strong card that's gated by this stuff. And I think that does add a lot of interesting parts to this sort of effect, because it means you can go a little more ham on what the effect does, because you can only do it once each turn, right? I think it's interesting. The fact that this is like Urza, this is like baby Urza. They made an Urza for every, I think, age of Urza, or every prominent age of Urza. So this is like cool to kind of see that. Because wasn't it them? When I say that, I mean like Magic. Weren't they like, oh, Urza would be too strong to have as a card, and now we just have a bunch of Urzas in the same set nonetheless, which is interesting. It's like a 180, but maybe it's justified. I'm definitely down for it, but some people like a little more exclusivity in between these characters. So yeah, this can attack potentially, but also needs a way to turn to tap. As a commander, I can see it being like a nice, cool uncommon, right? It has your filtering. It can filter, but not only that, it can create mana, which is super nice. All you need to do is filter one artifact at just one artifact, and then all of a sudden now you can use this ability for free. Pretty nice. I guess it's also a Icecrown Scepter outlet. I don't know what you want to do with that, but that's a thing. But I feel like most blue cards are that at this point, right? Blue has a bunch of ability tapping. I guess a lot of cards. I would say like compared to like green or like red, blue and I think blue, red, and white have like the most tappy abilities that require you to tap. I feel like, which lends them to being more stronger with things that allow you to untap, right? This is that. This is another Icecrown Scepter outlet. It's neat. It's cool. It's fun. I think. Just imagine you make all these power stones though. I like how they did it in the last set where they made Karn that made power stones, made mana. Now they're just making it like all over here. I wonder though, if they do make this like an evergreen thing instead of like treasures, they have power stones. I wonder how the game will turn out, because it seems like just more permanent types of sources at the downside of only being able to help artifacts or artifact-like strategies or ability-based strategies, which is fine because I think for the most part, especially in constructed formats, ability-based strategies aren't too particularly strong. So it definitely allows them to speed that up without having to slow down aggressive decks, right? So this is neat. I would say probably low power or mid. Actually, because it has its tap effect, I wouldn't say like just, it might be like high power playable in EDH. In standard, I don't think it'll be played in standard. Next is Titania, Voice of Gaia. 1 green for legendary creature elemental. I didn't know she was an elemental. I thought she would just be like some druid. Elf druid maybe? I guess that makes sense. Just looking at her old card. Anyways, 3/4 has reach whenever 1 or more lands are put into your graveyard from anywhere. Gain 2 life. At the beginning of your upkeep, if there are 4 or more lands in your graveyard and you both own and control Titania, Voice of Gaia and a land named Argoth, Sanctum of Nature, exile them and meld them together to Titania, Gaia Incarnate. I think by itself this card is like pretty generically added. Like it's a 3 mana 3/4 with reach, and also if you have lands go to your graveyard, say you've got like fetch lands or something like that, gain 2 life, which is fine. Honestly, I think this might be just a card you put against aggro decks in like a standard environment. Doesn't seem too strong. Of course, if you can play it with, you know, the other side of its meld card, it becomes a lot stronger, and that it's very unassuming until you like see the meld happen, probably. I'm actually not quite sure what the meld does. I'm pretty sure it's gonna be super strong. These are like the super prominent characters in like Magic's history, right? So assuming it's gonna be stronger there. Very unassuming, so it's not gonna be targeted, but in standard, it's gonna shore up your weakness against aggro decks as a land-based strategy. I think it also can probably contend as a finisher, seeing that it's a star stat on its flip side. I think it's gonna be a big beater in the end. Yeah, I think that's all you can say about it. It's definitely gonna be stronger in standard. In EDH, I would put it as like a low tier card, but maybe low power, probably at best. But definitely, I would think it would see some play in standard. Okay, next is Titania, Gaia Incarnate. So this is her flip side. Vigilance, legendary legendary creature elemental avatar. Has vigilance, reach, trample, and haste. Okay, so it can go on defense, keeps her defensive strats, but also it's got the aggro, protect and attack. So and it can reach and whatnot. So this looks pretty cool. Toughness and power equal to number of lands in your graveyard, lands you control. My bad. When Titania enters the battlefield, return all land cards from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. Okay, so it's like kind of like a reclamation kind of effect. Not too bad, not too shabby. Helps from getting those lands back. She's like returning the lands back from once they were destroyed, as in putting your graveyard. So it's like very lore-y, like it's a lore win here, right? Because she's bringing back lands that have been destroyed or been sacrificed. She's bringing them back to the battlefield to go to battle again or restore Gaia. 3 green, put 4 counters on a target land you control, it becomes a elemental. Okay, this is like a nice sort of mid-range between Nisa, like a non-broken Nisa, and like just a good creature ender. I could think that this might be like a good, I don't know, I feel like some weird Selesnya control can come from this. Just thinking though, I don't know. I don't know. This looks like a cool card. I don't know what to put it in though. As a commander though, I have to imagine how much the meld card costs in order to know if it's good or not. But yeah, you just go to beats after this, which might be pretty strong if you can like protect her. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's like a pretty decent card though. At first look though, with no other context, I think it's just like a low/mid maybe. Mid's just like a very maybe. I think in standard it could be definitely more playable though. Next is Argoth, Sanctum of Nature. Okay, so it's a land. The fact that it's a land, the fact that it's a land makes me think, wait, how did it meld in the first place? How do melds happen? Was it at the upkeep or end step or something? I guess the power is the power and toughness is a star, so it sort of scales with the length of the game. But yeah, so it enters tap unless you control a legendary green creature. Fine. Which I assume you would eventually at some point when you have Titania in your deck. Adds green, or you can tap it to mill 3 cards. So it's 2 green tap, create a 2/2 green bear creature token, mill 3 cards. Assuming some of those cards will be lands, it'll be great for the Titania meld. But you also create a blocker potentially for late game, but also if you're not playing into the late game, this just creates a 2/2. And you can just swing with the 2/2. I think it's pretty nice. I like this card a lot. I like this card. I don't know how I would build it, but like this is, I don't know, it builds itself. This is one of those cards that builds itself. Play a bunch of lands, get benefit off it. And the good part about this card is I think this is like super green. Like there are a lot of ways to get this land if you're playing green. If you're playing like Titania as a commander, I mean you can get your commander back, but also you're playing green, so you can get this land back pretty easily. So if you really want to rely on your commander in a green-based strategy, this is probably where you want to go. I like this a lot. Yeah, because both these cards, you go to the graveyard once Titania is killed, I believe. So yeah, you definitely want to have some like Crucible World type effect, but if you're playing green, you probably have ways to get back land, regardless of actually playing a actual Crucible Worlds. This is a neat card. Next up is Mishra, Excavation Prodigy, 2 in a red for legendary creature, human artificer. Haste, 1 and 10. Oh, I'm sorry, 1 generic and a tap. Discard a card. Draw a card. Whenever you discard one or more artifacts, add red. This ability triggers only once each turn. 2/1. Okay, so we've got that clause that triggers once each turn. Fine. Not too many ways to untap here. When I say that, I'm always wondering if they're thinking about previously made cards and how that would play out if they were to introduce those older cards. So basically, I feel like they're retroactively sort of thinking about the infinite win cons right now and more internal formats in a way such that like if they want to introduce them to arena, it won't cause a huge issue. That's why they add that clause, stuff like that. Maybe for other reasons as well, but that's sort of what I'm thinking. But yeah, so 1 generic, discard a card, draw a card. Okay, it's a looter, just generic uncommon looter, fine. When you discard a card, discard 1 or more artifact cards, add a red. So it pays for itself, but also 1 more, so it's like a mini ritual with some filtering, which is fine. Seems on the weaker end, just because the fact that Urza creates something more permanent, and I feel like the boost from this doesn't outweigh the permanence that you get from the blue one. But also you have to think about it this way, like this one has haste, so maybe it comes out a turn sooner, and you can use it a turn sooner than Urza. Like all you need to be is on turn 4. Urza, if you play Urza on turn 4, the Prodigy Urza, then you have to wait another turn. This one you can play immediately and activate it, and you can play one more red 1-drop. It's got its pros and cons, but I think generally Urza's still better. But this can be used for anything. Oof, it's a hard choice. It definitely does show like, blue and red and their differences here, but I like the idea. I think I'm still going with Urza though. Listen, I think Mishra, is still gonna be cool, and Urza is definitely like the head honcho from what I can tell. But yeah, I feel like they really let Misha down a little bit. Maybe if they made it, because it's you still gotta play it on like turn 4 to really get its specs. If they made it a actual factual like dark ritual, like say this, you had to discard artifact to get 3 red, I think then it'd be worth it, because you sort of trade off that permanence for like that immediate bonus. I just don't think 2 is enough. I think 1 more is what you need. I think this is like low, maybe mid commander tier, commander power level. Probably not going to see play in standard just because I don't know what kind of deck I want to see this in standard. Maybe some sort of reanimation deck. This is like immediate play on turn 4, get its value immediately. But then even if you play on turn 4 to get its value immediately, you need to use red, right? Like you have to have red and red isn't really used for reanimate unless, okay, maybe you can do like a throw of possibility, maybe that to set up your reanimation. I don't know. I think it could be better in standard than Urza just because it's the haste. But I think in eternal formats, I think Urza. Next up is the man, the myth, the legend. Oh, it's him again. It's Mishra, but this is not the fixed Mishra. I don't know what kind of Mishra to call this. Anyways, Misha, Tamer of Mahfawa. 3 black and a red for legendary humor creature artificer. Permanents you control have ward, sacrifice a permanent. Each artifact card in your graveyard has unearth 1 and Rakdos 4/4. This is brutal, I think. Just because the fact that unearth is a temporary, and I feel like you really want your opponents to interact with your stuff. So the way I'm thinking about this is you want to be able to have something that's scary enough where your opponents want to target it, but also low costing enough, or have some sort of ability to end the turn that you can really use that get them to sort of think of it as a threat, right? Because if it's too small, no one's going to bolt it or anything. But if it's too big, they want to bolt it. But then it's also, oh wait, no, that's not how that works. Because unearth is a set cost. So you just get something in your grave, unearth it for some big crazy artifact, swing at someone with it. They're gonna want to attack it, right? And it has ward. So just play something big because the unearth cost is set. It's static. It doesn't change depending on the cost. So yeah, rewind. Probably play super big things. Put them in the grave. Black and red really good at that sort of stuff. Unearth it. Swing. If they target it, fine. They have to sacrifice a permanent. Yeah, I think this is fine. I don't know 4 mana though. It seems like a lot, especially for the most part. If you really, I think it is past 4 toughness, so it's going to be a little hard to get rid of. But I don't know. I feel like it's a little on the weaker end. I could see this being a 4 mana 4/4. Honestly, I think it protects itself kind of. Like I can imagine in standard, like, it's gonna be hard to get rid of because if you cast this early enough, it's like, well, what do I do, right? And you're just too far ahead. So maybe 5 mana is worth it. It's fine here. Yeah, this is cool. I don't know. I'm getting Tezzeret vibes here with the arm. Cool card. I would rate it low power, maybe mid and EDH, and probably won't see much play in standard. Hercule, Master Wizard. 1 in a blue 500 creature, human, artificer, advisor. Jeez, that stat line. So tight. At the beginning of your end step, if you've cast a non-creature spell this turn, reveal the top 5 cards of your library. For each card type among 9 creature spells you've cast this turn, you may put a card type from among them revealed to your hand. The rest spawn in order. 2/4. I think this is a fine card. I think the way that you play this, you really have to play into more sorcery speed type of a deck, which I think isn't really that strong in blue. So I think this is generally going to be on the weaker end. But I like what it's doing. You can have a super high ceiling, kind of, as long as you're lucky enough, or if you sculpted your hand enough, which blue can do. So I'm interested in this card. I think it'll be okay. I think it'll be fun to play with. Yeah, not much to say about it. I think it'd be like at most mid, maybe high. I can see maybe some high, but that's like a weird strategy because at the beginning of your end step, so you have to play at sorcery speed. It's a very like proactive sort of thing, and I guess you can only dig 5 every turn, once a turn. Oof, I don't know. I want to say mid-high actually. I'll say it might be worth it in standard too. I think this might see some play in standard. I don't know what kind of deck, but it definitely lends you to more of like a combo-based strategy where you want to search for something in particular. Yeah, because it's not really reactive, which I think control would want to be. So I think this is definitely like more of a combo-y card, or at least something to help you get your combos. It's got some toughness, so it withstands against an aggro. Yeah, so I'm gonna say mid/high power and commander, and maybe see some play in standard. Next up is Urza, Prince of Kroog, 2 white and a blue. Artificer you control get 2/2. Okay, create a token that's a copy of target artifact you control. It has only one soldier creature type in addition to other types. Okay. I mean, other than, I don't know, I think the art is really good. It's like really comical. Just looking at the colors, it feels really like this looks like a blue Batman shirt, right? No. I feel like it's kind of weak. I'm gonna say mid or low power. Probably lower power actually. Lower EDH tier. Low power EDH tier. Probably won't see any play in standard. Maybe it will though. +2/+2 to artifact creatures, and this set as high of artifact creatures. I could see it. That's a big anthem, and you get like that extra oomph when you reach 6 mana to just create a copy of a target artifact you control. Could be pretty good. Yeah, I'll say that. Next is Teferi Temporal Pilgrim, 3 blue for legendary planeswalker Teferi. Whenever you draw a card, but also counter Teferi. 0 mana, draw a card. That's his uptick. Create a 2/2. Okay, so you have some sort of board impact that can also defend. Can also be seen as some sort of what would you call this? I guess defense? I don't know. -12. Target opponent chooses a permanent they control and returns it to the owner's hand. Then they shuffle each non-land permanent they control into their owner's library. That's a pretty strong effect. Honestly, just because it says non-land permanent, ooh, they shuffle each non-land permanent. So they still have a bunch of permanents, lands. I don't think it's as backbreaking as I think it is, but I do like the idea because if you're playing blue, there's a bunch of cards that are just like, 4 mana, draw 3, something like that. That just protects Urza a little more, and like Urza's already protecting you for your life total, so just drawing cards and using Urza as like this sort of meat shield, I think is like super good strategy here. I'm gonna say this card's gonna be played in standard. It'll probably see play in EDH, but the fact that it's -12 is a single target, I don't know. Like, would you Cyclonic Rift? You would Cyclonic Rift a single person, but this isn't like at instant speed, which is fine. You get value over time, but I guess it depends on how much card draw you have. Like, if you have a Ristic Study and a Teferi out, I mean, Ristic Study by itself is already really good, but the Ristic Study and a Teferi? Ooh, people are gonna start paying for it, aren't they? I feel like they are. Ooh, I don't know. Since it's a Planeswalker and it's easy to be attacked, I'm gonna say mid. We'll put it at mid power EDH level. Probably see some play in standard. Gix, Yawgmoth Praetor, 1 black legendary creature, Phyrexian Praetor. Whenever a creature deals combat damage to one or more of your opponents, the controllers may pay 1 life. If they do, they draw a card. 4 black, discard X cards, exile the top X cards of target opponent's library, you may play lands and cast spells from among them without paying their mana costs. 3/3. This card is dope. As like a black-based commander, can you imagine? Like, your opponents can attack your enemies, and like, sure, they're losing life, so it's sort of like always helpful for you. It's kind of got that weird Brina effect where, like, yeah, they're drawing cards, but they're also like dealing damage to themselves, but also dealing damage to your opponents. So it's like super aggro based. It reminds me kind of like what is that card? Not Azuri, but the blue-green commander, Edric. The blue-green commander that deals combat damage to draw a card, and then you can like play extra turn spells a bunch. It kind of reminds me of that. If you're playing against a blue player, maybe that's kind of what it's gonna be, because you can discard X cards. But the fact that you're discarding X cards means you're gonna be empty-handed. Oh, potentially, right? Because you can attack again and then draw a bunch of cards. This is a fun commander. I'm gonna say you can't play the same Edric strategy because black just doesn't have too many doesn't have too many extra turn spells. But like, what would you do? Combo? This is for sure like an aggro strategy. I can only imagine it being aggressive. I want to say it's like a high power aggressive strategy though. I know they have like no win con stack stacks. I'm thinking maybe this could be sort of like black's way of having a no win con. It's kind of weird because you're giving your opponents resources, but at the same end, you're also giving your opponent yourself resources and lowering their life total, which is also a resource. And you're targeting one of your opponents, in addition to their own resource. It's a lot going on here, but I like this card. I think it'll be good. It'll be fun. I want to say mid power. Probably won't see any planeswalker just because it's kind of weird. Okay, next up is coming some of the commander-based Brothers of War cards. So the quality might be a little iffy, but it'll have to make do. Hopefully. So next up is a Wondrous Crucible, 7 mana, artifact with permanent you control have ward 2. At the beginning of your end step, mill 2 cards, then exile an online card at random from your graveyard. Copy it, you may cast the copy without paying its mana cost. Okay, so you can't like recur it easily. You cast a copy for 7 mana, so it could be anything. It could be like a Blightsteel, could be, you know, a bunch of stuff. This is an interesting card. It's your end step, so you get immediate effect. Also, you can opt to... Oh, you can't opt to exile. Just exile a random card from your graveyard. A non-land card. So everything from your graveyard will eventually be exiled. You'll be milled faster than you can exile from your graveyard. So that means you'll potentially be able to recur things if you don't get eaten up by the Crucible. I think this card, it's cool. It's a cool card, but it's a little wonky, which makes sense since it's no commander product. I'm gonna say this is like low power, maybe battlecruiser. Won't see any play in standard. Thopter Shop, 3 for an artifact, 3 mana for an artifact with whenever one or more artifact creatures you control dies, draw a card. This ability triggers only once each turn. 2 and a white, tap, create 1/1 Thopter artifact creature token with flying. Interesting. Ooh. This is a cool card. I think it's something I want to experiment in my Oswald deck because to me this card reads as some sort of like weird protection spell, because if your opponents are gonna block one of your Thopters, that means they want you to draw a card. They can just opt to not block your Thopters. And what I mean by that is it's a lot easier to have one of your Thopters killed by defending. And so you basically stop people from attacking you because they don't want you to draw cards most of the time. And if they are defending, the chance of you drawing cards in one turn cycle is higher because there's more opportunities for you to get attacked than you to attack. So I think I'm reading this as a defensive card. And I think it's cool in that case, right? Like if I really don't want my opponent to draw a card, I literally just don't block into 1/1. So the damage is like pretty minimal for me not to care. And this is what I was sort of getting at when I was talking about Mishra before, the Rakdos Mishra, and that you want something that's large enough to have an impact if someone wants to target it, because the life swing is huge. Life swing from the 1/1 is just not huge at all. So they're not going to block it. Your creature's not going to die, except for the board wipe. So basically, if you keep this back as a blocker, you're probably going to be able to draw cards more often with it. And I'm totally fine with that. Like this is neat for that case, because I'm killing people, I'm killing my own creatures regardless of whether or not I'm blocking with them. I guess artifacts in general with my Oswald deck. So this is just gas. This is for sure just gas in Oswald. It's a little slow, but my Oswald deck generally isn't supposed to be a super competitive deck. So yeah, I'm definitely putting this. This is coming to the cookout. I think this is probably like honestly a low/mid power card because it requires 6 mana, but I like it. I like the whole give away card draw thing, and this sort of fits that build. So yeah, this is going in. And of course, it's not being played in standard because it's a commander card. Next up is Scavenged Brawler, 6 mana for 4/4 attack creature construct with flying, vigilance, trample, lifelink. Exile Scavenged Brawler from your graveyard, choose target creature, put 4+ on the counters, and it gets all those abilities. Activate only at sorcery. Pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Geez, there's so much exiling now. There is so much exile. Like they really don't want you to recur things for like infinite loops and stuff like that, which I think is the better way to play Magic. But like, oh geez, is it so prominent? Like back in the day, this probably wouldn't have exiled itself, I would think. This is cool though. So this is like build or Batterskull. Is this Batterskull have trample? No, it's vigilant. No. Oh, I don't know. But like, this is cool. Go on the offense, but also on the defense. Gives it the flying counter and everything. I think this is a neat effect. Basically comes back from the grave to, you know, fight once more. I like this effect. It does require some investment, but it is a cool effect. Probably won't see too much planar play. Maybe low power. Tertiary's Devastation. X2 and a black. Lose X life, then create X tap power tokens. Then all creatures get -1/1 for each artifacts you control. Okay, interesting. So It can be 4 mana for a Wrath, sort of, or Toxic Deluge of some sort. But you need to pay X to create mana from this. And if you do make mana, you will lose life. So it's sort of like the power of at any cost kind of thing going on here in black, which is fine. I think I like this effect, although it is super costly at being sorcery, but boy does it set up your next turn, because you get more art, you get mana basically ramp, which means you definitely want to be playing a lot more activated abilities in your deck. And I super like that for this new set because I love me some activated abilities. Yeah, this is cool. It's cool. Giving activated abilities a big boost here. It is weak though. I do think it's weak. I think this is definitely like low power, but I like the effect. I would say low power EDH. Next up is Wreck Hunter. So I saw this one. This is black for creature human artificer with flash. Whenever Wreck Hunter enters the battlefield, choose target player. Create a tap power token for each non-land card in that player's graveyard that was put in the graveyard battlefield this turn. 2/2. So this is like a lot like Dockside Extortionist. It requires your opponent to have their board like wiped for, you know, you to get treasures out of it. The weird thing is, if people don't like play into this whole like artifact sub theme, like what's really the use of, I guess, having all these artifacts? It is double black too, so it's a little more costly. I think it's quite interesting, because also it's not just like as broad as Dockside where it targets all opponents. This is just a single opponent. So I'm thinking is you want to wipe the board, and after wiping the board, you'll have killed a bunch of creatures, and you just target the person with most creatures, or you wait for someone else to wipe the board, and then you cast this and target whoever has most creatures, which it can be you if you want to play like more aggressively, a little fast and loose here. I think this card is nice. I'd probably add it in my decks. I don't know. I don't think I would add it in my guard deck. It would definitely be, ooh, I don't have a deck for this, but I like the effect. Maybe we just cop it for a later deck, probably. I think it's like a mid-powered card. I don't know how many high-power plus decks want to rely on like this sort of slow ability-based or artifact-based strategy, so I'll put it mid. Next up is Smelting Vat for generic for an artifact with 1 mana, sacrifice another artifact, reveal top cards, 8 cards of your library, put up 2 non-creature artifact cards with total mana value less than or equal to the sacrifice artifact's mana value among them onto the battlefield and rest of the library in order. Up to 2, so you can choose up to 2. So it will potentially basically net you cards. It's basically a card advantage, weird card advantage engine kind of thing going on here, right? So you put them on the battlefield, the top 8, you can choose up to 2 non-creature artifact cards. The total mana value is less than or equal to. So if you cast like this huge, if you sacrifice this huge artifact, say a Blightsteel, you can get anything with mana value less than 11, and you get 2 of those, as long as they're not creatures. So it's basically, potentially if you had more than, I don't know, if you had like 2 Darksteel Forges or something like that, you could put 2 of those out. Yeah, this is like neat. I think it'd be kind of slow, but that's fine. I mean, it's not that slow, right? As long as you have 5 mana, you can just do this. You have to have had something like a 3 mana drop or something. High density of cards around that mana value as well. I think there's some restrictions to this, but I think generally it's fine. You definitely want to play a little higher cost artifacts, but I think this is like a fine card. Probably low power though. Machine God's Effigy. You may have it enter the battlefield as top of your target creature. It's an artifact and it has add blue. So we saw this in red, and it's kind of interesting because the red one had haste and it's also 3 mana, and it's also in commander precon. So the fact that this is 4 mana, is blue, it costs more than red and doesn't do too much anything else is interesting. But also, is the Machine God, wait, is that Gix? Yeah, Gix ensured his most loyal followers were first to taste phyrexia and okay, so Gix is the Machine God. I don't think it'll be played too much. It's just too high of a cost, but it might. I kind of think of it as another Phantasmal Image kind of effect. Oh, but it stays as that. Okay, that makes sense. It doesn't last until the end of the turn like the red one does. This one just stays as it. So it's a mana rock, but also it just stays as that creature. So yeah, I would, okay, thinking of it that way, yeah, I would play this card. Probably mid power. I'd put it in mid. It can count as like some sort of ramp kind of, but also just like a copy effect, which are just generally strong. Which it scales to your playgroup's power. So yeah, I'd put this mid. Mid card. Cool. Didn't think of it that way. That is neat. Farid Enterprising Salvager. 2 and a red for legendary creature human soldier. 3/3. Whenever a non-token artifact you control is put into graveyard from the battlefield, create a colorless artifact token named Scrap. 1 and a red. Sacrifice an artifact. Choose one. Put a personal counter on Farid. It gains menace on the turn. Go to target creature. Discard card, then draw a card. 3/3. This is interesting because the Scrap token is an artifact and it's colorless, but it doesn't have anything else. It's literally just an empty card. It doesn't do anything. Do we have other cards that do that? I know there's like some subreddit posts that are just like, yeah, this card, you can make this weird interaction where like a card can become like a blue permanent with no other abilities on it. And this is like just an artifact permanent with no other abilities, which is cool. They just use to sacrifice. It can allow you to filter, you can goad creatures, but also interesting. So like the strategy of here is like super ambiguous as well, as long as you're playing artifacts. Oh, but the thing is, oh wait, I see it. It says whenever a non-token artifact you control is put into a graveyard, the battlefield create scrap. So you do have to play into it a little bit. You can't just like create one scrap token and be good for the rest of the game. You actually have to play more into it, which is fine. So you can play protectively with like the goad. It's like a red sort of control-based strategy from how I played against it. You can also discard a card then draw a card, which is nice. Good to filter some sort of like pseudo red card advantage here. And you can be a little more aggressively putting a counter on Farid, which I don't like particularly too much because I think it puts more of a target on her than what you'd probably want. So I think it's a cool card. It's a lot to think about. There's a lot to do here, and it's not set in one strategy, which I'm a big fan of. So yeah, this is a cool card. Definitely want to play this. I would put it probably as a probably probably low, just because it might be a little too slow for a strategy that I think would deserve mid. So next up is Glint Raker, 3 blue for flying Drake, X+O, where X is the highest mana level artifact control. 1 deals combat damage to a player, may reveal that many cards, reveal them. Okay, just like a pseudo like draw kind of, I don't know, drawish tutor. Not even a tutor, just reveal the top. Kind of weak. I'd put like Battle Cruiser here. Yeah, what to say about this? Saw this one, Scholar of New Horizons. Let's go. So this is a 2 mana creature human scout. That's a 1/1 with Scholar of New Horizons and battlefield +1/+1 counter on it. Tap, remove a counter from a permanent you control. Search your library for a plains card, reveal it. If an opponent controls more lands than you, you may put that card in the battlefield tapped. If you don't, put that card into the battlefield, put it into your hand, and shuffle. Listen, with this card, we're about to go nuts, okay? any sort of age counter or planeswalker or anything we can take advantage of so hard here, because think of Mystic Remora. It has cumulative upkeep, which I think is age count. If not, excuse me. But it has cumulative upkeep. You can just remove counters from Mystic Remora, keep it for eternally. So it's just gonna be sitting there for the rest of the game, just drawing you cards for 1 mana. Absolutely nutty. I love the art for this card. By itself, it's a 2 mana. Wait a turn, you can ramp potentially. This card is so good. Oh my goodness. I'm sorry, I'm gushing over here. The fact that it puts it on the battlefield and it's just a plains card, super strong. So get your Mistville plains. This will, let's see what else. There's Idyllic Grange. I don't think it's useful. Oh, wait. Idyllic Grange can put a counter on this to then potentially activate this again. Ooh, okay. We found a reason to use that card. That's the one that has like, if you have 3 plains, I think, it can enter untapped and you put a counter on a creature you control. Just put a counter on this. I think that's what that one is. Yeah, this is sweet. Oh my goodness. I want to rate it higher than it actually is worth, just because it has like this pseudo draw effect where you can just keep drawing cards by getting planes or drawing planes. I really enjoy those effects. I know it's not too super strong because you're drawing a card, yeah, but like you're drawing a land. I mean, there's times where you don't want to draw lands, and so drawing a random card might be better than drawing a land. So I don't want to put it in the same rank as drawing a card. I'm gonna put low to mid. I think I'm really biased here, but I think low or mid. Leaning on mid, just because that sort of strategy of and having this low of a cost for 2 mana is like probably not too crazy to think about doing in a game of Magic, because it's such a low cost to have this sort of strategy combo together. Yeah, this is a cool card. Definitely playing this. I'm buying probably a few copies. I bought a few copies of, geez, I have so many like Deep Gnome Terramancers or Ogmas, like was it Professor, what is it called? Professor of Ogma, Cleric of Ogma, Archivist of Ogma. I have so many of those, and like this just goes in that pile of super strong like 2 mana dweebs in white. I don't have I don't know. How do you win with all these dweebs? Like, do you go in for beats? I don't think you do, but like I've got so many of them, and I'm here for them. They're sweet. They're like card draw engines in themselves, and they're on creatures, which I'm a big fan of. So yeah, cool card. I'll put this in all my white decks. Curious where it'll land, but yeah, cool card. I would put it, yeah. I want to say mid. We'll settle on mid. Next up is Samuel Avenger, 2 and a white for legendary creature human pilot. As long as your artifact creature control is attacking, prevent all damage would be dealt to Sandwall Avenger Ace. Whenever Sandwall becomes tapped, exile top 6 cards of your library. You may cast a vehicle card from among them for the rest of the bottom library in random order. 3-1. Interesting. This reads a lot like a Boros card because of the red exile effect, but you can cast a vehicle or artifact creature, which is interesting. What does that even look like for white in the future? It is a vehicle or artifact creature, so it's not too crazy, but the fact that it's exiling and not like revealing and you putting it on the field, it feels weird, but I totally understand it. Like, it's sort of been creeping into white a little bit with like the whole exiling effect stuff, but from the library, I think it's mostly always been reveal. But yeah, I think it's like a pretty cool card for the aggro deck. I think it's just exiling top 6 from this one creature. Pretty cool, as long as the creature control is attacking, prevent all damage to this card. So as long as you have a creature, an artifact creature, you can continuously just like look through for more creatures. That's so strong. This is such a strong card. I like this. And it's like pretty aggressive. Yeah, this is a cool card. Maybe you go for like a artifact vehicle strategy. I don't know. It seems a lot like, there was one card, I forgot what it was called, but basically it was the elephant, and it prevented damage towards your artifact creatures. And whenever you played an artifact creature, you would draw a card, and you can do this once each turn. This kind of gives me those vibes. I would like to think that one's a little bit better. Just because you can draw and you don't whiff. This one you can whiff, but whiffing is so hard here. And it does require you to actually attack with this thing, which isn't bad. It's 2 mana. The other one didn't. There's some downsides here and there, but like, this is cool. I'm really glad they gave white this. This is cool. Big fan. I would put this as like mid. I feel like there's some aggro strategy that can be pushed with this. I'm really hoping there will be, because this can just swing in for 3 every turn and not worry about being damaged. Of course, you want to swing it like at least one more than 2 artifacts creatures maybe, because I feel like someone's just gonna blow up your artifact creature and then just like have Sandwall die. Because this is as long as an artifact creature control is attacking. It's no trigger. It's just a static ability. So if they destroy the creature, you're done. Sandwall is done. Bye bye, Mr. Avenger. So yeah, the cool card. Put it at mid. Last but not least, we got one of my favorite cards. Probably coming from this. I know not everyone's gonna like it, but listen here. We're trying to make white great again. We're making white, and it's never been great. Probably. Maybe in the past when there was like a bunch of more prominent priority spent on like Path to Exile and Swords of Plowshares, but I mean, it's getting pretty good, okay? So listen up. Kayla's Music Box, 2 generic legendary artifact with white, tap, look at the top card of your library, then exile it face down, or tap until end of turn, you may play cards you own exiled with Kayla's Music Box. So this is a slower, endless Atlas, but that's not bad, because it's 2 mana, it's not requiring you to play 3 of the same lands, it's a little slow, but that's fine. It's only 1 mana to use. There's downsides. And people won't know what you get. I mean, people won't know what you get for the Endless Atlas. It's not like too many people are playing discard spells, but like the fact that this protects against that might be worthy of note. I can imagine this being played mostly as like exile the top card of your library. If you like it, or if it's a land, you're probably gonna play it next turn. Just because when this does get flipped, because you know people are gonna psych rip this crap or destroy it, you're gonna lose all your cards. You're gonna start exiling your win cons like this if you don't think about it enough. Yeah, you're gonna play against that. So hear me out. It's just gonna be like a slow Phyrexian arena. But that's fine. That's totally fine. We're not losing life. We're just exiling and playing it slowly. This is what white does. Slow and patience. Okay, hey young ones. There's newbie white players. That's all you gotta worry about. The slow wins the race. Yeah, this is a cool card. It's definitely worse than I'm propping it up to be, but like I like this sort of effect for white, so big fan. We're gonna put it at low. This is pretty slow, but not gonna stop me from putting it on my decks. Anyways, let me know what y'all think about these cards in the comment section below. Are y'all playing them? You're not. What did I get wrong? What did I get right? What are y'all thinking? Let me know. Peace out.